Hey guys, look at this piece of crap that I bought. It's a German Chinese mini lathe made by Proxxon. 800 millimeters between centers, 80 millimeters center height, I think. And it can be yours for the steep price of almost 3,000 euros. Granted, I didn't pay that much for it. I actually had a small argument with the Proxxon reseller about the quality of this machine, and I just wanted to share my experience with you guys. Maybe somebody might be interested in buying one of these things, and there's a lot of caveats to buying this machine. Um, the machine is apparently made in Germany, but the castings say otherwise. They're very poorly made. The bedways aren't hardened. They're ground but poorly. The machine uses these ridiculous custom Proxxon tool holders. It comes with a quick change tool post and two tool holders for the price. And you can buy their pre-ground high-speed steel blanks, or actually tools like these, which are okay for general purpose use, but they're not great. They don't break chips. No matter how hard you feed them, they just stick to anything. The insert tools are also terrible. The bluing has gone almost completely off of them in less than 6 months, and I haven't used them a lot. They use some very expensive carbide inserts. If you buy them from Proxxon, they never stay at the same height as you set them. And yeah, the whole machine is tied together with Allen bolts, basically. It's belt driven, it has 3 speeds. Change gears. The change gears are horrible to change. Um, and not only they're horrible to change, they're noisy as well. There's quite a lot of backlash in them, no matter how hard you try and set them. The change gear ratios for cutting different threads and different pitches is nigh on invisible. But at least it has, I think, taper roller bearings, which is nice for a machine like this. The headstock is much smaller than it actually looks. The green part outside is just a casting, but it's not structurally integral to the machine. The headstock itself is not much bigger than a regular $300 mini lathe, but it's got nicer bearings. The spindle bore is Morse 3. The tailstock is Morse 2. The whole machine weighs around 42 kilograms if you add the chip guard. And this is kind of what you can expect from this machine. Aluminum parts, basically. Speaking of the tailstock, here it is. It's made out of die-cast aluminum, and it's been shedding itself on the bedways because it's so soft. The bedways aren't hardening ground. You can see the streaks left from the oil and the aluminum rubbing against each other. That's a nick from when I dropped the live sender on the bedways, and yeah, that's not good. This is a Morse 2 taper. It has a pretty long quill, a pretty decent hand wheel. The hand wheels feel pretty nice, but the machine doesn't. And yeah, the center is one of the few things that feels actually quite good about the machine. I didn't measure it around out on it, but I found it to be satisfactory. There's a lock, and that's about it. There's also a chuck and another taper shank for drilling, basically, which comes with the machine. Here I wanted to show you the run out of the chuck base plate, basically of the spindle. I know it's not very indicative of the quality of the machine, but it's alright. What isn't alright is how loose the machine is on the chip tray, which is the only thing that you can secure it to if you don't want to drill into your bench. There's two, I think M6 Allen bolts, which hold the ends of the castings to the chip guard, chip tray, whatever, and they're very loose. And this is the crux of the machine. It's terrible. No matter how much you try, you can't set the Gibbs. The backlash is horrendous. The the nut inside is terrible. They're just machine screws into brass. It's horrible. The longitudinal traverse, basically axis, is terrible. It sounds like this rack mechanism is grinding everywhere. There's a combined feed and screw cutting power screw, whatever it is, which isn't great. The power feed and gauge is really chintzy. There's no detents. You can't unlock this if you're threading because you're never gonna get the same thread. There's backlash everywhere in the machine, but you can work around it. The main problem with the machine is the ways. They're extremely bad. And there's this useless hand wheel on the far right of the machine that you can control feed on the z-axis of the machine, but it's very hard to use. This is the when I tried to take some chips to show you just how bad the pre-ground tool seal is. So I'm gonna take around that's on 0 coincidentally, so that's around 1 millimeter depth of cut. So it's 0.5 millimeters times 2, and power feed is at the slowest the machine has. The finish looks nice for the first 5 seconds until the rat's nest builds up and it just goes straight out the window. Yeah, this is basically life with this machine. The most fascinating part about it is that despite the fact that it generates massive amounts of stringy chips, no matter what insert I use, I never got it to behave. Even the carbide inserts are terrible. You can do threading. I made one of this old Tony style puzzles. This is actually a keyring. And you can do captive threads. You can do the surface finish wasn't great, but that was an entirely different can of worms. But you can do threading, and it does it pretty all right. This is a piece of, I think it's stainless, but I'm not entirely sure. And I was going to take about 1 millimeter off of it. Again, with the second fastest speed, and the slowest speed that you can get. And you can see, yet again, stringy chips. But the surface finish is acceptable, and usually on this material I found that the chips kind of stay away from the material and they don't get in your way. They just feed out near the tool holder and clear themselves. What I failed to mention so far is that the machine's accuracy is relatively alright. So if you dial in 0.5 millimeter, it's pretty much going to take 0.5 millimeter off of the diameter. But the reliability seems very poor. The ways seem to be wearing out faster than I would have expected them. The whole base of this carriage of the machine is actually, I think it's not steel. But anyway, whatever it is that it's made out of, it's very poor quality and they wear out a lot. The gibs themselves needed about 3 or 4 minutes on a very fine sanding paper to get the bumps out from machining. The electrics of the machine are pretty well made, I think. The chuck has an interlock. The chuck guard has an interlock, so if it flies open, it will turn off the machine. But the machine itself has tripped my breaker on 2 occasions past week, both times when I was actually turning it off. You can see just how bad the castings look. That's a very large knit line running down the middle there, and I wouldn't expect that to actually be the weakest point in the whole machine. I mean, the whole casting looks like this, and there's porosity. Yeah, I think the Chinese castings are much better than this is. One stupid thing about this lathe is the fact that being a capacitor start motor, um, you can't really switch the rotation direction while the machine is running. So if you turn it to the other side, it just keeps on moving right the way it was. You have to put it in the low gear, the low range, in order to get it to actually spin the other way. You'd say, okay, that's fine. I'll just thread in the low range. Nope, it hasn't got any torque in the low range. Okay, and then I'll switch to the lowest speed mechanically. Well, then you get the whole load of inertia that you have due to the chuck and the wheels and everything spinning. So the thing won't stop when you wanted to stop it. Yeah, so that's about it. If you want to buy one of these things, please don't. They're terrible. Get a Chinese milling lathe. Bye.